Jaggi of FanSided here with NFL expert and FanSided senior contributor Marcus Mosher. We are 2 weeks and counting until the NFL draft, the most wonderful time of the year. Almost here. We are going to talk today, Marcus, about buying or selling some of the latest NFL trade rumors that have popped up here. And some of these are pretty interesting. We've spent time over the past few weeks diving into prospects, some of the things that may or may not happen in the draft. Now we're going to buy or sell these trade rumors today. Should be a fun segment here.
Yeah, and I think we always get a lot of draft rumors over these 2 weeks, and you just never know what you should be believing because it's the season of lies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teams are trying to get players to fall to them. They're trying to get players to be drafted ahead of them. So I think you have to take these with a grain of salt. And I think a lot of times if you just use your own personal BS meter, I think a lot of times you can sniff some of this stuff out. So we'll get to some of the top ones here next.
Now, let me ask you, Marcus, how important is it for GMs, front offices to be honest and to build relationships as opposed to kind of playing it as a game of chess and doing what's smart for their organization to kind of get the best draft here?
I don't think it happens as much as it used to. I think you used to see some pretty wild things get put out there to try to get players to fall. And I think people are too good at sniffing that kind of stuff out. But I do think you have to play the game. I think you try to be secretive about the guys that you like. And you don't necessarily go and tell, a Daniel Jeremiyah, the guy you like. Maybe you say, hey, Kenyon Sadiq is the guy that we think is going to go early. We don't necessarily like him, but this is kind of the intel that we got. So I think that's how information gets shared. But I don't think you're necessarily seeing a bunch of people run to Todd McShay and tell them what their board looks like 2 weeks before the draft.
So there's one thing that we know for sure. Fernando Mendoza going number 1 to the Las Vegas Raiders. They should just take that one off the books at this point, right? There's no sense in odd makers even messing around with that one.
No, and Kirk Cousins really spilled the beans yesterday after signing with the Raiders. He said he's already been watching film with Mendoza, and he said, he thinks the best quarterback should start in Las Vegas, whether it's him or Mendoza. So I think it's funny that it's going to happen. We don't need to worry about it.
Oh yeah. He will not be at the draft in Pittsburgh this year, but he's going to be that number 1 pick. So let's go on to pick number 2 and the first of our buy or sell NFL draft trade rumors. And that is David Bailey. Is he a lock to go to the New York Jets at number 2? Now, obviously multiple schools of thought here. We kind of thought earlier in the process, and we've talked about this before, Marcus, how maybe it should be Arvell Reese going in that pick. You're betting on the youth, the upside, the projection there. More of the, I don't want to say everybody's looking for the next Micah Parsons, right? And at least Reese kind of fits that mold to a degree. It's unfair to compare anybody to Micah, but there's a thought about going with him. Some have even teased the idea of going with Ruben Bain. Just say, hey, just put one of the best football players out there, let him make plays. The recent buzz is David Bailey. And now all of a sudden, does this feel like one of the most sure things in the draft? Do you have David Bailey as a lock to the Jets at this point?
So this really got started with Albert Breer, who was on a podcast with Todd McShay over on The Ringer. And he said it's a borderline lock that he goes at number 2. And he kind of laid out the reasons. Number 1, Aaron Glenn is really coaching for his job this year for the Jets. I mean, he needs to show some rapid improvement. And I think the idea is that David Bailey is more pro ready to be a pass rusher than what Arvell Reese is. And he actually said that Aaron Glenn believes that David Bailey is a similar prospect to Aiden Hutchinson, who he had with the Lions when they drafted him at 2 overall. And I can see that a little bit. Their games are similar. Do I think it's a lot that he goes at 2? No, just because I think these guys are so close as prospects. But if I had to pick one way or the other, I do think Bailey is going to wind up being the number 2 pick here.
That's where I would lean as well. And I don't know if I would say it's a lock. If you made me have to choose one, I'll buy it. I'll buy David Bailey going there for the reasons you just outlined. Aaron Glenn, he can't afford to miss on this pick. And so you're getting the guy, the seniors, a couple of years older, ready to perform, already a proven player as an edge rusher, uber productive at Texas Tech this past year. That's not the case with Arvell Reese. He doesn't have that type of productivity. There's a lot more of projection when it comes to Reese because he did play kind of a lot of off ball and was moved around and stunted inside and has done some terrific things for Ohio State these past 2 seasons. But think he's a lot more raw. He needs a bigger learning curve. I don't know if he's as much of a guy that you can kind of just plug in to that edge position right away and just say, just go after the football and make plays. And then when you talk about Bain, I'm bullish on Ruben Bain. You know that, but I think that most teams are going to view that as a lot riskier type of player because of his squatty frame, the short arms, the lack of any athletic testing at all. And I was laughing, Marcus, when I messaged you the other day and found it funny that Bain was perfectly okay standing on his combine measurables of 30 and 7/8. Is like, I'm okay with that. I don't need those remeasured at the pro day. Like, I know I got short arms. That's fine with me.
Yeah, we'll talk about Bain here in a little bit, but it doesn't sound like he's in the conversation for two. It's really Reese or Bailey. I still think the Jets would love for a team to jump up a couple spots, whether that's like the Titans or the Giants to come up to two, and maybe they could slide back and still get one of these edge guys, but I don't see that happening. I think Bailey ultimately will be the pick here.
Yeah, if you want the guy, I mean, agreed. If you want the guy that's probably not going to get you fired, I don't know if that's avoidable for Aaron Glenn, but if the one that is more so would be David Bailey. He's more pro ready. I think the floor is high with him. I don't love his bend, but man, he's really explosive off the line. He's got a really good combination of size, speed, probably the direction that I would lean as well. So I will buy that draft rumor there. Let's move on to the next one, Marcus. Keldric Faulk, a pretty polarizing prospect, kind of that boomer bust candidate, the long, rangy edge, defensive tackle, whatever you want to call him, can play 4-eye, 5 technique. Not all that dissimilar from like Michael Williams coming out of Georgia last year. I don't know what to make of this guy. And I put on the tape, and there are some things to like. He didn't come in as big or long or as athletic as I had hoped that he would be. I was hoping he would be kind of more that tweener in the best possible way. Still big and still a lot to work with. 20-year-old guy there. In recent mock drafts, and I just have some of these pulled up here, Keldric Faulk is going 26 to the Bills, 32 to the Seahawks, even 20 to Dallas with their second of their 2 first-round picks. Is he going to go higher in this draft than what he's being mocked recently?
So over on Pro Football Focus, his average mock draft ranking is 23rd. So do I think he goes higher than that? Yeah, I do. I think he probably goes 8 to 10 spots higher than that. And the reasoning is, number one, there's just not a lot of edge rushers in the first round once you get past Reese, Bailey, and Bain. I think Mesidor is scary because of the age. Parker wasn't all that productive last year. Malachi Lawrence is coming from a small school. So he kind of just fits into that range. And then on top of that, we saw last year teams running the ball more often than ever. We saw teams using more 2 and 3, tight end sets, more 6 offensive line sets. And I do think Faulk fits into that well. A guy that can stop the run, that can play up and down the line of scrimmage. And then on top of that, Tommy, you mentioned Michael Williams, who went 11th last year to the 49ers. Well, Keldric Faulk is bigger, he's heavier, he's longer, and he's more athletic than what Michael Williams was last year. I don't know if he goes at 10, 11, or 12, but I don't think he goes that far after. So this is another one that I am buying. I think he goes somewhere in the early teens.
Based on the talent alone and the fact that he is such a project, I don't think he should go there. But I'm going to buy this as well because teams are going to bet on the upside. It's a pretty weak defensive line class. If you view him as a guy that could maybe be a 5 tech for you and a 3-4, like I do think there's a lot of versatility to his game. Now, ideally, in a perfect world, Faulk is a guy that I'd love to be able to bulk up to 285, 290, play him as a base end, and then kind of kick him inside. I don't know what his best role is going to be in the NFL as a true edge. Does he have enough juice there? Maybe he does, just to be just a full-time edge rusher and be scheme versatile. I'm going to buy that though, because of his youth, because of the traits, him being that kind of rare, long athlete, and just the upside that you have in that projection. Combine that with the fact that there's a lot of questions about Akeem Mesidor and Cassius Howell and these older prospects that each have kind of something working against them. I think Faulk is the gamble that teams will like to make more so. Let's move on.
Real quick on Faulk. He is the youngest edge rusher in this class. He also has the second longest wingspan in this class, and he's the heaviest of all the edge
Yeah.
rushers. And even if
Yeah.
you don't love the tape, and I think you and I are on the same page here, there's going to be a team that looks at the wingspan, the height, the size, and the age, and be like,
Mhm.
we're just going to take this guy and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Because I do think he's going to have value as a run defender. I think he will be a plus run defender right away. Somebody's going to want that early.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think that that's probably the range that he winds up. So we're buying that. We're saying he goes earlier than around the 23rd-ish pick where he's been mocked most frequently. All right, Marcus, let's talk about Jermon McCoy, a really interesting prospect in this class. Obviously missed all of 2025 with the knee injury, Tennessee cornerback, really young. We're talking about another 20-year-old here. Had an amazing 2024 season. The problem is the dude's gone like 500 days without anything notable in football. And he was able to work out, though, which is a good sign. Still a risk because anytime you're talking about in cornerback coming off of a major, major injury, this is a risk. Will he be picked before Mansour Delane, who has answered all those questions? He came in with respectable size. He's 5'11 and 5'8, 182, shortish arms, 30 and a half inch arms ish. He ran a 4.38. He's coming off a really good season at LSU. I don't think he should go before Delane, but will he? That is the question here, Marcus. You buying that Jermon McCoy, injury and all, not playing a lick of football this past year, is he going to go ahead of Delane in the draft?
So this got started because Todd McShay and I believe it was Albert Breer, the same podcast we're talking about. They think McCoy has a good shot to go ahead of Delane, and
Mhm.
I don't see it. I am selling
Mhm.
this one. Not only do I think Delane goes higher, I'm not convinced that Jermod McCoy will even be the second cornerback drafted. I think you're going to see potentially one of Colton Hood or Chris Johnson go ahead of him. I think there's still going to be teams that are scared off from that knee. We've already heard a couple teams that have been pretty vocal that they're not going to draft him in round one, including the Dallas Cowboys, who it's been reported by several other teams or by several other sources that he's not in
Yeah.
consideration. And I think that's really notable, Tommy, for a couple reasons. Their doctor, Dr. Cooper, is one of the most renowned knee specialists in the entire United States. The Cowboys are signing off or basically saying no to this player, and a
Mm.
lot of other teams will base their medicals on what this Cowboys doctor says. So if the Cowboys are out, I got to believe there's going to be several other teams that are going to be out on him early as well. Now, it only takes one. Maybe it's the Bengals doctor, so they're typically more aggressive. Maybe they sign off of him, and I look like an idiot here, but I will not be surprised if Jermod McCoy kind of has that like Will Johnson fall in this draft.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's justifiable. I mean, we're talking about a guy who hasn't played any football since 2024. The talent is there, obviously, but who's to say that had McCoy played this season, maybe he wouldn't have taken a little bit of a step back. It's hard when you're going off of a guy who has one really good year sample, but that year is not coming in the most recent year. And then on top of that, we're talking about a major knee injury at a position that really values speed and change of direction ability. Like to me, these guys are close enough as prospects. Yes, if assuming that McCoy would have had another season like he did in 2024, I would slot him ahead of Delane comfortably, and I'll say, okay, I'll take him as my cornerback one. But now considering this, these guys are close enough prospects to me. He should not go ahead of Delane, who has a clean bill of health, is coming off of a good season in his own right. I think the biggest maybe difference between the two is although McCoy is recovering from that knee injury, he's also 2 years younger, and maybe teams are going to just love the youth and the potential upside that you're getting there. But yeah, I don't think that he should. And I'm going to say that I am not buying this either. I think that Delane is the first corner off the board. I think teams are going to feel more comfortable with that.
Just remember at this time last year, everybody thought that it was a lock that Will Johnson was going to go inside the top 12 picks. And he ends up
Mhm.
going in the middle part of round two. Teams get really nervous about players coming off an injury. And just based on some of the reports out there, McCoy ran really well at his pro day. His vertical and broad jump are very good, but the on field drills, he was out of shape, He was winded, wasn't as explosive as you would like to see. And I just wonder if there's going to be enough teams that are turned off by him in, the top 20 that we do see other cornerbacks jump him, including obviously Mansour Delane.
Yeah, and we'll see how those medicals come out and what teams think ultimately. But I'll push it a step further, Marcus. If we say that Delane is ultimately selected first, is McCoy the second corner off the board? Is he the third? We really like Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. Terrell is probably going to drop after running a 4.6, 4.40. Teams might be turned off by that a little bit. Does his teammate, Colton Hood, go ahead of him? You think he does?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, that's interesting because I definitely like McCoy's film and skill set and talent better, but it's the injury risk type of thing there. And you're betting on the guy that's healthy at least. So yeah, I mean, I can see a scenario where that plays out as well.
I'm with you.
All right, let's talk about Rueben Bain here, one of my favorite prospects in this class. Is it possible now, as much as we've heard from this guy, and my goodness, you go back to just this past season, I think a lot of people that watch college football would agree that this was the best defensive player in the country. Just so dominant game to game. He helped his team get to the national championship, and it was just a force to be reckoned with. But I mean, not an ideal frame, not the ideal length you want to see. Didn't do any athletic testing, and that's maybe enough to potentially drop him outside of the top 7 picks in this draft. Are you buying that that Rueben Bain will not be picked inside the top 7 selections this year?
I am. And let's go through the teams really quickly because I think that does matter. Obviously, it's not going to be the Raiders. We both think that the Jets are going to take David Bailey. I think the Cardinals are either going to take Arvell Reese or Jeremiyah Love. I think the Titans will take one of those two, right? Whoever's available. You've got the Giants, who I think are going to take either Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, or Francis Moinoa at that pick. They don't have a need for an edge rusher. And then you've got the Browns at 6 that are going to go offense. And then the only question is, does he go 7 to the Commanders? And I don't know. This is typically not the type of player that Dan Quinn has liked. I think they're going to prefer to go secondary, whether that's Delane or Caleb Downs. Maybe it's Jermod McCoy. Maybe they're one of the teams that's willing to take him there. So right there, you're at pick 8. And I just look at some of these teams, even beyond that, like Dallas and Cincinnati at picks. Dallas is 12, Cincinnati's at 10, and even Kansas City at 9. They typically like longer, more athletic players. I won't be surprised if Rueben Bain is the guy that we're just scratching our heads on draft night wondering, why is he available at pick 13, pick 14, pick 15? Because the tape says that he shouldn't be.
No, absolutely not. And I agree with that 100%. But if you look at the teams and the further we get along in this process, a couple of weeks away from the NFL draft now, inside the top 7, it's literally just the Jets and the Commanders that would take an edge, right? I don't see anybody else pulling off that move.
Titans, but they're not. I don't see them taking Bain.
The Titans, the Titans would be the other team that could take one there. But I don't see Bain going there either. Man, I think Washington would be wise to take Bain, but I'm going to buy that as well. I'm going to buy that he's not that selection there, and that they will go a different route. And maybe that's what would they take Reese there? Is Reese on the board there?
I think Reese would be a much better option. I think they're going to run a more 3-4 looks in Washington this year with Durante Jones being the defensive coordinator. And I just don't know. I don't know how well Bain would fit into that because I don't really see him as a guy that you put out wide, like in a wide 9, dropping him in coverage. And he's certainly not a 5 technique. So it's unfortunate for Bain because he's such an awesome player. But there are going to be teams that are scared off because he didn't test and because the lack of length. It's just not a good combination.
And if he does slide past pick 7, I'm interested to see when that slide ends. Does it end at 8 with the Saints, who could use an edge rusher? I mean, it's possible that it ends right there. Otherwise, maybe he slides down a little bit further than most people expected. All right, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals here. I mean, are they really considering Jeremiyah Love a running back at number 3? I mean, this team is in shambles right now. We're talking about maybe one of the worst rosters in the NFL. They got a new coaching staff. Is this LaFleur's way of saying, I want to make sure that I'm at least somewhat competitive in 2026 in my first season as a head coach? I loathe this philosophy of taking a running back when you need so many things. Like they could take offensive line, they could take defense, they could take edge, whatever. You could take another receiver to help out whoever your future quarterback's going to be. I don't love the idea of taking Love here. As good of a prospect as he is, taking a running back 3 overall stings when you've got a rough roster. Is this something that the Cardinals are seriously considering? Are you buying this at pick 3?
I mean, we've heard different rumors that they are considering it. I'm selling it just for all the reasons you mentioned, right? Like, I know they want an offensive lineman at 3. There's probably not one that they feel comfortable with. They probably would like a receiver, but there's, again, not one that you feel comfortable with. I think the reason why they're letting it known that they would be interested in taking Jeremiyah Love is because the two teams that draft directly behind them, the Titans and the Giants, have also been rumored to be linked to Jeremiyah Love. So maybe they're hoping one of those teams will flip with them. I just don't see it. When you're this far back in a rebuild, you need a new quarterback. You're paying $90 million for Kyler Murray not to be on your roster. I don't think you have you don't have the luxury of taking a running back with that spot.
Yeah.
So I think Arizona's ultimately going to bail out of that pick. But if they have to stick in pick, I just don't see it being a running back. I think they're far more likely to take someone like Arvell Reese, who can be a foundational piece for your defense.
Yeah, and you can absolutely make the case that Love is the most overall talented player in the class, but you have to align the situation here. And if you're the Cardinals and you're not ready to compete right now, what good does it do you to get you a running back that could maybe play you out of? I don't know. I don't agree with the philosophy when you're so far away. I think that, and I don't even agree with it for a team like the Titans, who Love could very well fall through the next pick. I think Love should go to a team that at least has a chance to compete in these next couple seasons, because that's when you get the best use out of these first round running backs. One more here, Marcus, before we do. You are tuned into Stacking the Box, where NFL fans come to talk, celebrate, and debate. For more coverage, hit up fansided.com, powered by the passionate fans at FanSided. Check out all of their great NFL draft content over there in these next few weeks leading up to the NFL draft. Let's talk about Jordan Tyson, one of the most polarizing players in this entire class. We've heard Mel Kiper go out and say he thinks he's a top 5 or 6 talent in the class. Connor Rogers has come out in support of him. A lot of draft guru guys really like Tyson and they like the film a lot, but what do you do with these injuries? Obviously had the ACL, MCL, PCL injury back at late in 2022, caused him to miss essentially the entire 2023 season, didn't record a single reception then. Even in his best year, Marcus, in 2024, missed 3 games with a collarbone injury. Last year, dealt with a nagging hamstring injury, still dealt with an ankle and a hamstring this offseason. Like, this guy is just injury riddled. And I saw in Dane Brugler's The Beast scouting report, Tyson's missed 34% of the total games he was eligible to play in during his college career. That is a ton. You're talking about just over a third. A third of the games you are missing. What do you do with this guy? Is he trending in the wrong direction right now?
I think so. Just because he did not do anything at the combine, didn't do anything at his pro day. He's got a private workout scheduled for next week, according to Matt Miller, but he's not expected to run a 40 at that one either. And it's not the biggest deal in the world not to run a 40, because like Tedro McMillan didn't run one last year. He still went 8th overall. But I think you would just like to see him show that he's healthy after having that hamstring injury 4 months ago, 5 months ago. I do think he's somebody that could fall into the late teens, early 20s. He's obviously more talented than that, but these teams want guys to stay on the field, and he just hasn't proven to do that. And we should mention, you got guys like Daniel Jeremiah, a national podcast, questioning his toughness, and that's just not something that DJ really has ever done. So when he's being this vocal about it, it makes me think that he's hearing from a lot of these other teams that they're even more concerned. I do think he could be a draft day faller.
Yeah, I can buy that as well. I mean, I think that talent-wise, and if the injuries weren't a concern, this guy probably, factoring value position, this guy probably should be a top 10 or 12 pick in the draft. But you have to consider the injuries. You have to consider the fact that he's missed a third of his college games. And if there's anything else on top of that, and if he's not ready to go still, like, those are all things that need to be factored in. I am buying that he could slip in the draft. I don't know how far. It could be the mid-teens. It could be the mid-20s. And I would be floored if he fell out of round 1, though.
I don't think he'll fall that far, but he is, among every ranking, he's a top 3 receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not one of the top 3 drafted receivers in this class, just because the injuries are so significant.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it wouldn't shock me a bit if a team preferred a guy like Indiana's Omar Cooper Jr. Over Tyson, just because he's got that clean bill of health. And I think that's going to mean a lot to football teams. We'll see with like him and Jeremiyah McCoy, 2 of the guys we talked about on this podcast today. Very interested to see where they end up at the end of the day. We'll be all here for it. This is the Stacking the Box show. We premiere Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Be sure to check it out. You can follow Marcus's awesome work on X at Marcus_Mosher. You can follow me on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Stacking the Box podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also check us out on YouTube. You can follow my written work on stillcurtain.com and Marcus's written work on the FanSided NFL Network. Be sure to check out fansided.com for all your daily sports news and opinions. Check out their awesome draft coverage over there as well. And thanks again for listening to Stacking the Box.